Hi, folks. John Adamson with Seeking Light. You might be wondering a little bit about the title. Well, I know YouTube has been actively suppressing some of my video content. Can only explain the way things have gone down substantially in views. And I know it's because I've taken a hardline position against some or I should say, very anti woke positions. But anyway, I wanted to start this by talking about a little story. So behind me sits my son's 97 Thunderbird, which I helped him find and procure. I know something about cars, but perhaps only enough to be dangerous. And anyway, we looked at this car and he got it for $1,400. It had brand new tires, it had new shocks. When I drove it, it seemed to be fine. It had a little bit of a rough idle at times, but under power, it was good. And so as we were getting ready to pull away, I noticed a little bit of fluid on the driveway. I thought it was just water, condensation. It was a humid day. And even when you don't have running air conditioning, sometimes you can get a little condensation. It turned out to be coolant. And so my son had this for about a week. He said, "Hey, would you mind driving it?" I drove it, found out that it was nearly out of coolant. It was starting to get overheated. And come to find it had a leak in the radiator. So we've been struggling. I've been struggling. He paid for the parts. I've been struggling to fix it because, in part, I feel responsible for his purchase of this. I made the recommendation he go ahead and get it. He knew a lot less about cars and issues, and he spent his hard-earned money, and now it's his. Well, it's also partly mine. And so I told him, "Hey, look, if you can pay for the parts, I'll provide the labor and get this done." So I'm in the midst of working on it, getting the cooling system. See, when we purchase something, we have a responsibility to actually pay for it, whether it's under credit or not. And one of the things that we are seeing, it's made the news, it's in the news right now, it's being actively discussed, very forcefully actively discussed right now, whereas it had been more of kind of a peripheral topic in politics, and that is the issue of debt forgiveness for the college student. And so you have these students who are coming out of school with degrees in basket weaving for which they owe 100 grand, and they have to get $15 per hour minimum wage in some states, sometimes less, jobs, and they've got this mountain of student debt. And to them I say, you bought it, you pay for it. Back in the day, called school for me, I graduated with about 8 grand in debt. I had some student loans. I had to pay them off. I did that well, partly because I'd worked through school to help pay for my college. And I went to a 5-year program. The first year and a third, my parents took care of. So thankful to them for that. But then I was responsible for it. And I paid off my student loans in pretty short order. I can't remember exactly what the time frame was. But if you go to school for a degree that you picked and you chose the school, and then you chose to get loans out for that schooling, you own that baby. It's your responsibility. And I don't care if you have a payment as big as a house mortgage. It's your fault. You did that to you. You should get it paid for. Now, could it be possible that somebody gives them money to pay it off? Well, yes, absolutely. In fact, I'm going to correlate this, trust me. So we've adopted in our family, and there's no way we could have done those adoptions without the help of other people. People voluntarily contributed to help us make those adoptions happen because they felt led to do so, and they knew that what we were doing was a lifelong commitment. They were giving a financial commitment to help us make that happen. Thank God for that. We are where we are today with our adopted children because of that. There's a big difference between voluntary giving and coercion, which is what the government is doing. and to the tune of over $300 billion to our national debt. And I say national debt because we don't have the money to pay for it. They're just going to print more money to pay for these students to get debt forgiveness for useless degrees. You know what happens when you provide more money for something? The cost tends to go up. And by federalizing the cost of tuition, we've made tuitions go up tremendously. Back in the day when I was in school, our school was expensive, but not terribly so. I mean, it was about, we had trimesters, and they were running towards the end of graduation almost $5,000 per trimester, which is a pretty good amount of money by today's standards. But obviously it's gone up tremendously. And one of the things that you will find if you go back to the school I graduated from 31 years ago is the buildings are practically all new. They've got multiple building projects going on. We also see that some of these schools, like Harvard famously, has something like $50 billion in already money just set aside, endowments. It's been estimated that Harvard could use those endowments, and if they keep, I think if they keep their current admissions rate steady, they could have all their students come to school for free and still do fine because of all their endowments. So a lot of these colleges are very cash rich. They're doing tremendous building projects. They have hugely expensive sports programs. And then you have students going to them that are helping fund these hugely expensive building projects and sports programs and very expensive professors sometimes, because the federal government gives dirt cheap loans, which a lot of them are now about to be forgiven, so they can get useless degrees that not only won't benefit them, but won't benefit the United States as a whole. You bought it, you take responsibility for it. Just as my son and I are taking responsibility for, unfortunately, a non-functional right now 97 Ford Thunderbird. Anyway, make sure your Congress hears about your displeasure with the president saying that he's going to provide loan forgiveness for college debt. Another thing to think about, and perhaps a point of argument, if you actually get somebody to talk to about this concern, is the fact that they don't offer the same programs for those that go into trade schools. Why is that? They're providing a valuable service for which they will get paid. They required some advanced training. In some instances, like CDL now, you have to go to school. It's not cheap, and a lot of these people could probably benefit from getting loan forgiveness as well. Why don't they get it? That's probably because CDL schools aren't run by a bunch of liberal professors. This just a little aside, since I've got a little bit of time. They've done a lot of surveys of college professors, well into the 90 percentile range. They're voting liberal, not just Democrat, but liberal Democrat. And so that tells it, that tells a story right then and there. Who are they trying to appeal to? These colleges that can make more money to pay their liberal professors more, so that liberal students can be made more liberal. It just drives the liberal agenda. Now, you don't have to get into that side of the discussion, but the fact of the matter remains. If you pay for something, you are responsible for it, and you should make good on what you've already utilized. Just like any of us who have credit cards, who've put something on a credit card, we have a responsibility to pay that off. Anyway, I've talked long enough. Hope you're having a pleasant day. Take care, and God bless.